little secret stash of pictures down there in the press room. Interesting comments were the ones when I'm going to go back down there when they're gone. If I have a key to that room. What's the over here?
Governor, will you make some opening remarks?
Yeah, everybody good to go? Okay. Well, thank you all very much for being here. Obviously, anytime the session ends, it's a significant event, and we wanted to have a chance to reflect on that. I do think there was a lot accomplished. First of all, we passed a budget, which I'm a little prejudiced, but I think it's a great budget because it does several things. It cuts taxes. It adds to the rainy day fund. It gives a raise to employees. It continues to increase, has really one of the largest increases for K-12 funding that we've had in a long time, and gave a significant amount of capital for higher ed. I think there was some significant legislation passed. I think, again, one of the key issues, I think, is increasing access and controlling the cost of higher ed. So both through the Western Governors University bill and through the TSAC bill, which is going to allow more families to be able to afford schools, afford college, I think it's a really, really big deal. Legislation passed on workers' comp that I think is very significant. What am I forgetting here? I'm trying to think of all the things that higher ed. Actually, I talked about higher ed already. So I think for me, there was a disappointment. I mean, we had a voucher bill that I really wanted to see passed that didn't. But it's, as people remind me, this is the first year of a 2-year session, and the bill is actually still, I think we just put it on hold, right? Pending. And so we definitely intend to emphasize that again next year. So with that, I'll stop, and you can ask questions for any of the three of us, and I have the mics on my jacket, so I'll just lean in if I...
Were you surprised at the intensity of disagreement between the two chambers today?
You know, maybe I should let the leaders speak since they were there. I will say this. I was talking to Deputy Governor Ramsey, who's been around here a lot for a lot of years. He said, you know, the last days everybody's tired. It gets emotional, and that's not all that unusual. And I think when the smoke clears, everybody will say this was a very effective first year of the session.
Governor Haslam, any reaction to the allegations that have come out against your brother and Pilot Corporation? You know,
I've actually already commented on that, and I'm not going to be commenting on that every week. I think this is something that could be a while. I've really said two things. Number one, I have great faith in my brother. Number two, I'm going to be the full-time governor of Tennessee, and like I said, it's just not something I'm going to be commenting on.
Can you review for us were you ever involved in the sales division at Pilot?
No, and like I said, I'm not going to, I've never was, and actually take it back when we very first started 25 years ago, I might have made some calls, but...
Can you just review for us what your role has been this last decade or so there?
I've been a shareholder.
You're not a board member at all in the last 10 years?
No.
And does this change any of that? I mean, being a shareholder, I mean, what's going on here? Would it change you being a shareholder?
Well, first of all, remember this is an investigation, okay? And that's why, like I said, I really don't want, this is about this press conference is about the end of session. But it's an investigation. It's going to be ongoing for a while. And like I said, I'll comment the next time there's something appropriate to comment. Anything else about the session?
Yeah, the charter school authorizer bill, which did not make it,
right.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's probably one of the, if you ask the two things I was personally most disappointed in, be the voucher bill and the charter authorizer, because I do think it's important in terms of, particularly the charter authorizer. People kept saying, well, it's about the Great Hearts issue, but it's really more than that. A lot of the great charter operators we're trying to attract to Tennessee, they're not going to come invest all the time unless they know that they have a realistic chance of that getting approved. And so that's been, I think, a key motivation for me in having the charter authorizer passed.
Are you going to veto the ag bill?
I obviously hadn't gotten it yet, and I think as I told you all earlier in the week, it's not one that, quite frankly, was really high on my radar screen, so I hadn't paid a lot of attention to it until this week. We've obviously already gotten a lot of calls and emails on it, so you can tell everybody to hold. We've got all we need on both sides. I think we understand the issue. I'll be studying it. So we hadn't even gotten it yet, but even prior to that, we'll be looking through the ramifications.
Sort of an initial reaction, I mean, on its face?
You know, I understand. I mean, I've had people, again, proponents and opponents tell us their reasoning, and we're going to do some homework between now and then.
I understand you talked with Andy Holt about the bill today.
I asked the two sponsors to come down to Dolores Gresham and Andy Holt and just said, we really are kind of behind the game on this one because it wasn't one that was, again, was real high on our radar screen. So come explain to me what your motivation is and why you thought this was important for the state.
What do you think about the? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, and so in light of what you heard, do you feel that I mean, you're still looking at it, or?
Sure, I mean,
or
literally,
they
like I
persuade
said,
you,
this
or-
is, no, I mean, that was the first conversation of many that we'll have. And we'll do our own research as well.
Are you surprised with the supermajority that some of this stuff didn't get through? You know, like the school stuff, the charter, and the...
I'm disappointed, I guess I should say that. I don't know if I say surprised. I might let some people, again, who've been around here a lot longer than I have, comment on that. But I'm disappointed, particularly in those, like I said, the voucher and the charter authorizer.
Governor, could I comment on that? I've reminded our members in the Senate since last summer that just because we can pass something doesn't mean we should. And I'm just delighted at how quickly and smoothly everything went this year. I haven't tallied up the number of bills, but I know that we're adjourning here the first half of the 108th earlier than we have in decades. And despite that, we got a tremendous amount of good work done. We're halfway through the session, and we'll pick up some of these things when we return in January.
Is it too late, Senator Norris, to pass the judicial districting bill next year and have it go into effect?
It's technically no, it's not. The elections are forthcoming, and so the more time, the better. But technically, no. That could be revisited.
What do you think it says that the big education reform bills, that those as a whole didn't make it this year?
Yeah, I don't think, I'll let Gerald remark comment. I don't know if there's a huge message there. I think they each had their own individual situation, and they are, I mean, those are bills that, people are passionate about. When you go back in your district and you have people who feel passionately about those issues. So, again, I don't, particularly with the voucher bill, I certainly don't think it's dead, and we intend to come back with that same bill next year.
Are you happy with where the,
I was just going to say, it's not bad just because we have a supermajority that we don't unite and pass bills one after another. We still have differences among ourselves. We have a lot of creative tension between the bodies sometimes, but that's good, and I think it brings us out with some better policies in the end. So there's nothing wrong with disagreeing. It's hard to pass legislation. It ought to be hard to pass legislation. We'll come back next year and finish what we did in this year, and I think we'll do it right.
Yeah, I mean, education reform, a couple of big bills you say this year, and that's true the first half of this session, but if you look at all of the education reforms underway since Governor Haslam took office, I mean, these are components of that, but we've got a lot that is already in process, and we've bitten off a lot, and so I think it's good that it takes time to do some additional changes. Let's see how the reforms that we've already put in place are working.
are you happy with where the legislature landed on Social Security after the Sandy Hook shooting?
I am. I mean, I think one thing to go back and look at is it's not like there's a huge body of evidence that says here's the right way to handle school security. There's not a large body that says, gosh, if we put a school resource officer in every school, that makes it more safe. And I think we took a reasonable first step that we'll continue to monitor that.
What about the confidentiality provision? I mean, a lot of parents aren't going to like that.
In terms of yeah, I guess. I mean, that's one of those. I understand both sides. I mean, there might be a benefit, like whoever, like maybe Senator Green was arguing that maybe it helps for there to be a lack of certainty about who all would be permitted there. But again, I think the important thing to me is those are people who are all post-certified and have the proper training.
Governor, are you concerned that they left you with no way to appoint a judge, fill a judicial vacancy after July?
Well, that is a concern, and I will have to talk about the ramifications. I have talked with Chief Justice Wade of the Supreme Court. We actually, we have 4 vacancies left to fill. The nominating committee's already met and made the recommendations on all those. After that, we've had a rush of openings. One of the things I've been shocked at is how many judges you appoint in this job, but we don't really see a lot coming. So I do think it's a problem. I don't sense it's an urgent one. And I don't know if anybody else wants to. Maybe 1 or 2 more.
Well, if you talk to the sponsors of that ag-gag bill, what about the opponents like Senator Norris? Will you talk with them as well?
That's part of the point is I've talked to Senator Norris about that bill already, as a matter of fact, this week. So
We're going to talk a little bit more about it.
that's right. Yeah, I think Senator Norris somebody made the point. This is one that kind of broke down rural-urban more than Republican-Democrat, which is kind of the way things used to work around here more. Like I said, part of doing the research where I am is to listen to those folks who have strong feelings on both sides, and then to step back and take a more dispassionate look at it and try to make the right decision.
Leader McCormick, given that perhaps this was somewhat of an urban rural divide here on the ag bill, why did you vote for it?
I didn't know you'd noticed. It seemed like, I didn't spend a lot of time on the issue either. It just seemed to me if there's cruelty to animals, it ought to be reported, the quicker the better. And that's the knowledge I had on it. That's what makes my vote on it.
And you didn't take the argument that perhaps this, it took time to do investigations and such, and
Honestly, I'm spending more time on budget issues than I was agriculture issues the last few weeks, and probably could have looked at it a little harder, and I just didn't have time to.
On budget issues, the Democrats did have that, give you authority to expand Medicaid if your conditions are met, which these guys didn't seem to think much of.
And I appreciate their generosity and their trust in me, but it was kind of weird. I had already said I'm not going to do anything without the legislature's approval. It's too big of an issue. I've made that public promise twice, and I'm not going to. So while I appreciate their gesture.
Well, Chairman Sargent said on the floor that there doesn't seem any chance it's going to get done within the next 5 months. Do you agree with his assessment?
I don't know that. I mean, like I said, I've been in Washington last couple of weeks. Some folks from CMS are going to be down here next week. We're continuing conversations, but it's as I've said before, it's not an easy one to figure out a way that works for us and a way that works within what CMS will let us do. So
he wasn't getting that from your administration?
No, I don't have. He sure hadn't gotten it from me because I don't have a date out there in terms of. I think we'll know in 2 weeks or 2 months or 6 months.
Do you have the higher ed boards giving you any indication of what size tuition increase will be as a result of the budget?
They have, actually we had a good, they did. When we made the budget proposal, and I've forgotten, they actually did guarantee some caps.
Less than 6%.
Less than 6 for 4 years and less than 4 for 2 years. Is that right? Yeah. Less than 6 for 4 years and less than 4 for 2 years. Sorry, it's been 3 months of it.
It's in a state.
That's right. But you have that. You watch that on. You have that on continuous loop. I'm sure.
Governor, as far as expansion is concerned, do you feel like you're the test market for other states? That if you take a new pressing lead on it,
I think a lot of states will fall. No, I think a lot of states are trying to figure out the same thing, and they're trying to figure out what they can get approved in the legislature, as well as what will work and what CMS will let them do. You see, Arkansas having those conversations, Ohio, and a lot of other states as well. So I don't know that we're the test market, but we could be a test market. So let me say by saying this, because I thought both leaders made a really good point. If you look, this session, finishing April 19th, really is, I think, unique. And you might say, well, what's the big deal? Well, it is. It shows that the General Assembly was intent about going about their business and doing it. And I give the Senate and the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker and the leader great credit for that. And then I think in the House, with the new limit on bills, I personally think that did have a positive effect on this session. So I want to thank both the leaders, both the speakers for all their work this year.
So you're happy they're gone?
Never said that.
We're not gone yet.